Okay. What is going on, everybody? I know that ain't nobody in the chat yet, but we're gonna wait for some people to get in here because this is one of the most. This is very epic for me. This is very epic for me. It's been a while since I had this brother on my channel, and hopefully, we can actually have a good show tonight. It is the Spotlight Sports Talk. I am your host, Darian of the Spotlight Sports Talk. And this is going to be Spotlight Sports Talk Podcast, Episode 8, y'all. Episode 8. I gotta keep doing these a little bit more, in my personal opinion. But even if we have 0 people watching or we have 2 people watching, it really does not matter to me. But we here, we're live back with Spotlight Sports Talk, and we have the legend, the myth, the number one analyst on YouTube for the Toronto Raptors, and the number one analyst once he gets back into football, number one analyst for Baltimore Ravens. My inspiration, my guy, Luca Rosano. What is going on, man?
What's up, Darian, man? That's some high praise you gave me right there, bro. I really, really appreciate the love, the respect, the support, man. You've been one of those guys I've been following for a while and vice versa. So, yeah, man, I appreciate you taking the time, having me on your show. And it'll be interesting to see what we talk about today because there's no sports going on. But nonetheless, man, we're keeping the content rolling. I see you're doing big things lately with Raiders news, which is good to see. Keep going at it, man. Like I said, you're one of the hardest workers I know. And, eventually you're going to start getting that notoriety and that spotlight. No pun intended. Spotlight sports talk.
I can't say enough about that because I mean I took your advice when we talk off the air because we talk off the air all the time, and I took your advice and I went with the niche. I went with the Raiders niche until basketball come back and I actually do that Sixers niche as well. But just for people in the chat, good sports evening. What's going on? RQ3. What's going on? Iris and Vlogs. What's going on? What's going on, everybody? But like I said, thank you for being on the show. I really do appreciate it. I was trying to get you to put it on your community post as well because I know you're a busy man. I know you're an entrepreneur. You're doing everything that you have to do to try to keep your content up and try to keep your brand up, knowing that no sports is going on. But I do want to get into that, knowing that this coronavirus thing is really getting serious right now. It's really getting serious. How was your input on this whole coronavirus stopping sports and especially the NBA, because that's what you really cover the most is the NBA, knowing
Yeah.
that you have Red Zone Rosano. But we all know your Raptors content is on your Luca Rosano channel. But how do you feel about, how is it affecting sports right now?
It's affecting it big time, man. I mean, it's the first time in our lifetime, at least, that all sports have collectively stopped. It's definitely different. It's something that we're also trying to adjust to in terms of like how we live our life, with not only sports being put on pause, but real life being put on pause. People's work, just every day to day, pretty much people's every day to day lives have been impacted and changed in some way. So it's a major adjustment, but at the end of the day, it's bigger than sports. It's about getting people healthy. It's about defeating this thing, stopping this thing, and for us to be once again unified. So all the precautions that have been taken, I think it's been really, really good. I wish we had done this sooner. If we had done it sooner, maybe it wouldn't have been this bad. But at the end of the day, man, there's nothing we can do. This is real life. We got a big pandemic. We got to solve it. We got to make sure people are saved in the process, and we got to just eliminate this virus and then return to our everyday life. So I mean, it sucks. Don't get me wrong. I mean, like, we're huge sports fans. There's nothing going on right now. I've been watching reruns on like NBA TV. I'm actually watching a rerun right now on NFL Network of one of the games from this past season, and we still do have WWE, but you'll be the first to notice it's not the same. Obviously, with a dead crowd, no fans, like it goes to show how much fans impact these games, because it's just not the same when you don't have a live audience. So I think the question becomes, man, is just how long is everything going to be put on the shelf? That's the biggest question I have about this, and I don't think anybody has the answer. And I mean, until that moment comes, I think we just got to collectively be optimistic. We got to still do what we're doing, collabs, doing content, keeping our spirits up. And then eventually we just got to know things are going to get back to normal.
Yeah, I can 100% agree, knowing that NFL has been keeping us up to par with content, knowing that the free agency, how Tom Brady went to the Buccaneers, and all that other stuff, and we've kept hearing more about the NBA because I want to stay on the NBA side of things, how players are being affected with the coronavirus. And my question to you is: has anyone from the Toronto Raptors has been affected with the coronavirus? As you know, knowing that you follow the Toronto Raptors and that's your favorite team.
Fortunately, not. And that comes as a big surprise because if you remember, the last team the Jazz played and the last team Rudy Gobert went up against was the Toronto Raptors. And I mean, he was nearly getting into a fight with OG Anunoby. He was up and close with, of course, Serge Ibaka. So I immediately thought coming out of that when they announced that Gobert had tested positive on the Wednesday when they then shut down the NBA. I thought for sure a couple of Raptors were going to be affected by it. But yeah, fortunately, none of them have tested positive. But now we've heard some other names in the NBA that have been tested positive. Rudy Gobert, obviously, Donovan Mitchell. We got obviously KD, one of the biggest names recently that tested positive. So yeah, it's wild, man. And I think it doesn't do the NBA any good that we're seeing more and more players as the weeks unravel get tested positive and these new cases come up. Because then that's going to lead you to speculate. I mean, is the NBA season going to be canceled as a whole, or is it going to come back? And funny enough, I'm actually going to be addressing that on my show tomorrow. I'm going to be doing a special live call-in show. Hopefully, you can join me for that, where I'm going to get everybody's opinion and just kind of reaction on if the NBA season will be in fact canceled. Or will it resume just at a later month? I mean, we just saw recently today the Olympics being postponed. Pretty much every major sporting event has been postponed. And then you mentioned the NFL. That's literally been the only thing that has kept sports fans sane during this time because although there's no games going on, at least there's been big news. Obviously, Brady to the Bucks, all that good stuff. So at least that's given us some content. But as far as some of these other leagues go, yeah, it's like when is sports gonna resume? And I mean, what do you think? Do you think the NBA season is gonna be canceled, or do you
Uh,
think there's a chance it can come back?
it's a chance that it could come back because we still early in the 2020 season. But the way this coronavirus is spreading, at the end of the day, it's a possibility that it could be officially canceled through the whole year. But the question is that now we have officially canceled. We don't have a champion for the 2020 season. We don't have a champion. We have a lot of what ifs going into knowing the NBA season will be canceled. Now, say if the NBA started around the NFL, like around September, August, September in that area, maybe yes. But knowing that it's a possibility they say in June. Now June is kind of really pushing it, knowing the NFL season is coming around the corner in the month of June. But it'll be
Yeah.
good at the same time because you'll have NBA and NFL around the same time. But we all know that it pushes back the NBA and then the WNBA comes after the NBA. So that kind of pushes that as well. So it's just everything's going to be clogged up, with the NHL, the Stanley Cup, and then the MLB. They were
Yeah.
supposed to start, and that's not starting for who knows when. So it's really tough to see what's going to happen with the NBA. And I want to stay on the NBA because knowing that I think it was I think the two 76ers that have the coronavirus, but it's not any star players. I think it's two bench players they did not release a name. But I really don't want to make it a sob story about the coronavirus. But if the NBA did not cancel, who were your contenders in the East, and who were your contenders in the West coming out? As a Western Conference Finals or Eastern Conference Finals.
Yeah, I know. I love that we could talk basketball. And before I tell you my answer, shout out everybody in the chat, man. Definitely hit that like button. Support my boy Darion. Let's grow this channel. Subscribe if you are new. Share this all over social media, man. My dude's putting in work. But to answer your question, Darian, let's start in the East. So it's clearly, gonna one of the teams I'm gonna mention is obviously gonna be the Milwaukee Bucks. They are on pace to 70 wins. What they've been able to do this season has been unprecedented. They're better than what they were last year, and that's saying something because they were pretty darn good a year ago. But outside of the Bucks, I mean, I've said this many times on my show. I don't think there are clear-cut favorites because you can make a case for any team in the East, 1 through 6, in my opinion, that could get hot at the right time, that could have health on their side at the right time, and they could make a run. So Milwaukee, my Toronto Raptors being second, but then also you got to look at the Celtics, who I'm very keen on. You got to look at the Indiana Pacers, obviously, with Oladipo coming back into the mix, and now that he's going to have all this time to get even more rested, that's going to help Indiana's cause. The Miami Heat with Jimmy Butler and what that team's been able to do. They beat the Bucks twice already this season. And then, of course, I can't forget about your Philadelphia 76ers. For as much as the media likes to attack them, hey, I'm not going to deny the fact I was one of the guys who had coming out of the East at the start of the season and making it to the NBA Finals. And I'm not going to discredit that and say that there's no chance they can't make it, because there is a chance. If MB comes back fully healthy, if Simmons comes back fully healthy, the Sixers have enough talent to go on one of those runs. So that's my answer in the East, man. I think it's any team 1 through 6, depending on health and which team gets hot. Now in the West, it's a different story. It's literally Clippers, Lakers, and I don't think another team has a chance. If I had to maybe say another team, it would be Houston, just because of their star power, Harden and Westbrook. But I still can't see them beating the Lakers or Clippers team over the course of a 7-game series.
I'm not really too optimistic about my 76ers, because even when Ben Simmons was healthy, we still struggled. And the only reason why I say that, because us playing on the road, that's been our Achilles heel, and trying to win games on the road in the playoffs, that's going to be tough for us, because I don't even think we got 11 wins so far on the road. Like our win column for being on the road is very terrible.
Yeah,
the 7 is very terrible. But we're like 23-2 at home. So
that's the thing. If you guys somehow
crazy.
get home court, I mean, you can make a run. And let me just say this: I wouldn't want to play the Sixers in the first round, because you guys have that size that I think would pose a big challenge on any team. So that's another thing you guys got going for you. You know, if your team is fully healthy, you guys got the size to do it. And then, like you said, they're pretty much unbeatable at home. So if they steal a game on the road, then all of a sudden these guys are cooking.
And for my West, I mean, the East is people really underestimate the Toronto Raptors this year. And only reason why I say that is because knowing that Kawhi Leonard left to go to LA Clippers, and Toronto has been very quietly, but I've been watching them. Toronto is still a solid team in this league. They're still a solid team in the NBA, and they still can make a run to probably go back to the NBA championship. Just because Kawhi Leonard's gone, y'all still playing at a high level. What are your expectations for the Toronto Raptors this year, knowing is no Kawhi Leonard left?
Well, first and foremost, thank you for that praise, because a lot of people haven't been giving the Raptors praise, especially north of the border in the United States. But yeah, my expectations of the Raptors coming in, they were pretty high. I'm not gonna lie. Did I think they were gonna do this well? No. But I still thought they were going to be a 4th or 5th place team, and obviously a playoff team in the East. But what they've been able to do has just been remarkable, from the standpoint that they have come across so many injuries. They're in the top 5 in terms of man lost for the season, and they're in 2nd in the East. So that says a lot about how deep they are. That says a lot about how well coached they are. And that says a lot about their grit. I mean, this Raptors team knew the narrative. Nobody gave them a shot without Kawhi Leonard or Danny Green coming into the season, and they literally just went under the radar. And that's when they're at their best, when people are counting them out and they just go out and win games. But the biggest thing for the Raptors moving forward is going to be health. Can they get fully healthy? This time off is definitely going to help them in that retrospect. And then another thing is, who will stand up? Who will answer the call as being the number one? The only thing that concerns me right now for the Toronto Raptors is when they do play top tier teams like the Milwaukee Bucks late in the game, who's going to be that guy who can be their go-to guy? Siakam, he's looked good at times, but he still kind of looks shaky when the spotlight is on. So can the Raptors definitively have a closer, in those late game situations? And can they consistently be a threat against those top tier teams in the NBA and in the East?
Yeah, so a lot of people really been sleeping on the Toronto Raptors, and I feel like they've been slept on because of everybody say, oh, they not gonna be good with Kawhi Leonard, but defensively, as me doing a few live play-by-plays and reactions of the Toronto Raptors, their defense in Pascal has kind of extended a little bit in his role, knowing that he don't have to be second best to Kawhi Leonard. And that's just my personal opinion, just because of knowing that the Sixers, we have that rivalry with us. And that's what my biggest thing is with the Sixers is trying to play the Raptors in the first round. I really don't want to see the Raptors in the first round. I really don't. Even because just defensively and how your head coach philosophy, how to take out one player and and mix and match defensively and look give you different looks. I would not want to see the Sixers play Toronto. That's just my personal opinion there. So if the season was still going on now, do you think the East can win an NBA championship, or the West is just still too dominant?
I think the West is just too damn good, man. I think whoever comes out of the East, I have them losing to the Clippers or Lakers. I personally think the Clippers are going to win the entire thing. I just think they're the deepest team, and when they're on, Kawhi Leonard, especially, I think he's the best player in the NBA. We saw what he did in the playoffs last year. He's clutch. He's good on both ends. And the biggest question mark for the Clippers is, can Paul George be that consistent go-to guy as well? Like if Paul George can finally shake those playoff cobwebs and he can show us the Paul George that he's capable of being during the regular season and the postseason, and you can have a Paul George like performance like he did for Indiana in that run that they made that year, and then they fell short against the Heat when LeBron was on that team. Then the Clippers are going to be scary to beat. But then that being said, the Lakers are pretty darn good as well. I mean, LeBron James, he's 35 years old. A lot of people are talking about is if the NBA season does resume at a later date, he's going to be well rested. And then you're going to get a 35-year-old LeBron James well rested. You're going to have Anthony Davis. You're going to have all those other weapons that they have. I mean, it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough for any Eastern Conference team to beat one of those two powerhouses in a 7-game series, especially considering that they would be well rested. And I think that's something that we're all losing sight of here. I mean, I really hope, really hope that the NBA playoffs does resume, because you're going to see the best players and the best teams in the world at full strength. They're going to be fully healthy. And I think that's something that not a lot of people are seeing right now. It's like if the playoffs start, whether it's June or even latest August, like we're going to see the best players fully healthy. So we might see the best playoffs we've ever seen ever.
But it's not really too much to say about the NBA, because it's like it's all about what ifs right now because of this pandemic is going on with the coronavirus. So it's like it's so many what ifs, or what can happen with the season, or what can happen if it's a playoff or anything of that nature. Now, I don't know if you have been looking at March Madness going into the last couple of years, but March Madness was supposed to be this month as well. Did you have any predictions of what college might win it all, or might go? Like, do you have like a Final Four prediction or anything of that nature?
First of all, man, that's probably the biggest news that hit me the hardest was the fact that March Madness was canceled. I tell you, as a basketball fan, it is the best tournament. I look forward to that the most. It's the best basketball. I would take March Madness over playoff basketball any day of the week, man, because you see the upsets, these young kids going at it. It's pandemonia for what, like 2-3 weeks, like my all-time favorite tournament. I was very sad when they had to cancel it because of this whole virus. In terms of this season, I'll be perfectly honest with you. I don't know if it's because of a lack of a star, and that was brewing, or just the fact that there wasn't a lot of star talent. But I wasn't as invested in this college basketball season as in years past. There wasn't that big name like we had obviously in years past, like a Zion Williamson to look forward to. So I just wasn't as invested as I normally would be. So I mean, I would probably go with one of the favorites in any given year. So like Duke or Kansas was playing really well. But as far as like you know a favorite, I don't think there really was a favorite. And we saw so many upsets happen during the season where you could have seen like a Cinderella maybe make it to an Elite Eight or Final Four. So
Yeah, I have to agree. Like, I wasn't really invested into women's college basketball or men's college basketball. But that you just never know with those upsets and them Cinderella stories that's coming out with the round of 64. It's just really no star quality players like, the RJ Barretts and the Zion Williamsons of the
exactly.
world. It just wasn't as popular as it was. I felt like we got so much of Zion at Duke. It's like now it's just an afterthought. Like, Who's the next big thing coming out of college? Like we just don't know. At the time, Baylor was number one overall in the nation, and I'm like, Baylor, like where did Baylor come from to be a number one basketball program?
Yeah.
So you just never know with college basketball. I really didn't have a Final Four either, but I still could have saw Duke or North Carolina going to the Final Four, depending, no, not North Carolina, but more of Duke than North Carolina. North Carolina's kind of on like a slump this year, but Villanova was one of those teams I could see going back to the Final Four. I can't really put Cinderella stories because they didn't even put out the round of 64,
That's
which
the
I
thing.
think they should have did. I think they should have did that.
Oh, just you think they should have just at least had the bracket set up? Yeah, it would have been fun for Leafs fans to speculate. And I'll be honest too, like when it's bracketology, that's when I do my in-depth research. So I look for some potential sleepers or some teams that can win maybe a round or two under the radar. And going back to the whole no star quality players, yeah, it's true. I mean, the consent or like on a lot of people's consensus mock draft boards, some people have LaMelo Ball going number one, and he's not even playing in college right now. He's playing overseas, or like even that other dude, his name's not coming to mind, who was suspended, or no, who he wasn't. What was the story with him? Who am I thinking of right now? I can't remember his name, but he wasn't suspended, but he didn't play in college to try to get ready for the draft. So there wasn't like that big time player.
Yeah, it wasn't a real big time player that actually stood out to me. And LaMelo Ball, number one overall, I cannot see that happening. Because
Who do you think's the number one? Actually, who do you think's the number one going to be?
I don't know who's the number one going to be, but we all know LaMelo is the popular one because of the Ball family and Lonzo and everything of that nature. But I just feel like LaMelo won't live up to the number one overall pick because of his father. That's one. Number two, the pressure that he's going to get being a number one overall pick. I don't know if Lonzo was a number one overall pick as well, but you seen the pressure of Lonzo when Lonzo got drafted, the pressure of his father, and I think him going to New Orleans was the best fit for him. It was a lot of things were toxic in the Lakers organization last year. Now LaMelo's coming in as a number one overall pick. If he is, I just see it being a bust because just the pressure that's going to be put on in his first year as a professional. So with LaMelo not even playing college ball but playing overseas, which I think LaMelo should have played college ball, it would have brought up the ratings for college basketball.
Yeah,
it would have been storylines to talk about as LaMelo Ball playing for college in the nation. So him going overseas and all the extra stuff going on, I just don't see it. I just don't see LaMelo Ball being number one overall. So
yeah, and the player that I was thinking of that I can remember his name, James Wiseman, he's actually being considered the consensus number one. I'm looking right now on a lot of mock draft boards. So we'll see, man. We'll see. I mean, yeah, like you know what sucks too? The fact that there's no March Madness is the fact that when the NBA draft would roll around, you would have some players who would shine the brightest during the tournament. And that would, in essence, raise their draft stock, and then they would get an opportunity that might not have been there if they hadn't played in the tournament. So that's what's going to suck too. You're not going to get those hidden gem players that you're going to see obviously on full display because there's no tournament. I mean, look at like a guy like Tyler Hero. He had a huge tournament that brought up his draft stock, and then he got a great opportunity in Miami. So that's the thing about this year's draft. Teams aren't going to have those hidden gem players to look after, like to look out for, because they literally simply have not enough sample size on these guys.
Yeah, I 100% agree. There it's just tough to see now all these conference championships that for the smaller schools to get their bid into the NCAA tournament, and now they can't do it, and it hurts for high school players. It hurts for college players as well because their senior nights are gone because of the coronavirus. They can't, have a senior night or play their last games in the facility that they played all 4 years at, even from high school and from college basketball. So it's just kind of tough from any sport. It's just kind of tough, to have no senior night. But I do want to get into some NFL football because a lot of people in this chat don't know that you are a Baltimore Ravens fan. I just don't understand the connection between the Toronto Raptors and the Baltimore Ravens. So for the people that's in the chat that doesn't know who Luca Rosano is, aka the Waterboard Report, let them know how that connection happened. You living in Canada, but being a Baltimore Ravens fan.
Yeah, that's a really good question, man. A lot of people actually around in the Toronto area, they cheer for a couple of teams. The most popular teams I see cheered for here are the Pittsburgh Steelers, which of course are the Baltimore Ravens' biggest rival, the Dallas Cowboys, and then you had the people here in Toronto who jumped on the New England Patriots bandwagon, Tom Brady and other championship. But as far as I go with my favorite team being the Baltimore Ravens, yeah, to be honest with you, man, it pretty much stems from about 2007 when I really started to get into football as a teenager. And one of the first teams I watched was the Baltimore Ravens. And I had a favorite player at the time who was Ray Lewis. I loved Ray Lewis. I loved his electricity. I loved the passion he brought on the field. So I invested in Ray Lewis, and then that got me to become a Baltimore Ravens fan. And then when the Ravens drafted Joe Flacco, which was what, '08, that's when I fully became a Ravens fan from there on out. So yeah, that's pretty much how I became a Ravens fan. And I'm like, I like the way their logo looks cool. I like purple. I'm a big Ray Lewis fan at the time, and they got this guy named Joe Flacco coming on board. So I'll make this my team.
Interesting. That's really interesting. Knowing like a lot of people like that I know that Baltimore Ravens fans, they say almost the same thing about Joe Flacco, or they'll go back a little bit further than that. Before like the Trent Dilfer days, the not yeah the Trent when they won the Super
Yeah,
Bowl in 2000.
see, I
So
had no idea what football was at the time. I wasn't really watching football, so I don't remember those days at all. But yeah, Trent Dilfer, from what I've seen, like tapes and stuff, like he wasn't good at all. You know what it is too. I fell in love with football. Ironically, because now I'm a big fan of offense, but I fell in love with football because of the hard nosed play on the field. So seeing the Ravens, they were always generally speaking one of the best defensive teams in the league, and seeing how they got after it on the field, like I said, Ray Lewis, Terrell Suggs, Ed Reed, one of my all-time favorite players as well. I just fell in love with their mantra, their swagger, their confidence, all these different personalities. I'm like, yeah, I can dig this.
and that's how I felt about the Raiders too. When cause I'm old. I'm old. So I'm 34 years old, and
You're not.
I've been a Raiders fan since '98. So I feel what you're saying with the Ravens, because it was just the persona of the silver and black, what it stood for, the commitment to excellence, the hard hitting defensive players, legendary that we had, the so many legendary offensive players that came through and wore that silver and black. That's how you felt about the Ravens, those players that came through that attracted you to them, and that's why people say, "Oh, you're a Sixers fan, but you're a Raiders fan. How you're not an Eagles fan?" I'm just not an Eagles fan. It just doesn't happen that way. So it's
Yeah, I
just
was one of those
you
guys. I
know
remember I asked you, I'm like, wait, so how are you a Sixers fan and then you're a Raiders fan? So it's the same type of story with me.
yeah. So like I like every other Philadelphia team but the Eagles. I just think when it comes to Philadelphia fans, they are diehard in different ways. Like they're so bipolar. Like they have a different type of fan. They have a different type of fan. How can I put it? Like a fan personality with the Sixers, a fan personality with the Flyers, a fan personality with the Phillies, a fan personality. It's like four different personalities for each team, and the fan base just could not. I just could not vibe with the Eagles fan base. It was just something about the green and I don't know, just fly Eagles fly. It just didn't fit me as a person. Like I grew up listening to NWA and they wearing that Raiders gear and wearing all black with the white t-shirt.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
I grew up in a hip hop culture that loved the Raiders.
Yeah.
So that's just was something why I decided, to become a Raiders fan. So as far as free agency goes for 2020, how do you feel that the Ravens did as far as getting some signings and getting some needs before the actual draft?
Yeah, I think overall they did a good job. The Ravens, I think moving forward, are going to be one of the favorites in the AFC. Looking at what they did last year, there's not a whole lot you can improve on, but there still is some area of improvement. Obviously, we had a lackluster postseason with the Tennessee Titans, which I didn't see coming. I don't think anybody saw that coming. I think the Ravens overall had a solid offseason thus far. And I think the draft is just going to be as good. I trust management. I mean, Ravens have always been that team that just always knows, what piece they're missing and who to go after, and they bring in guys who are always going to work. I am sad though because Chris Wormley, he actually just signed or got picked up by the Steelers. He was with the Ravens, and I actually interviewed him. He's one of the first athletes I ever interviewed on my show. That's when I was covering all sports on my main channel. And he was just such a good guy. So when I saw that the Ravens had cut him, and then he was picked up with the Steelers, that was a little bit of unfortunate news. But he is a Steelers fan. He told me that he grew up a Steelers fan, so I'm sure he's happy about that. But man, I think the Ravens are going to be just as good this season. But I think all the focus is going to be on Lamar Jackson. We know what he's capable of doing in the regular season, but now you look at his playoff sample size, it's not a good one. I mean, 2 years ago, okay, I know he came in as a rookie. I know he came in with very limited reps, and look what the Chargers were able to do to him. I mean, he looked very uncomfortable. What was more concerning is last year he had a full season under his belt for his MVP, and he comes in and he doesn't look good whatsoever. Now, granted, Tennessee's defense came in one of the hottest defenses in the league, and I think the Ravens just froze at the moment. But you looked at Jackson's play in that one. He looked pretty uncomfortable. He missed some wide open receivers. That first half, he looked very uncomfortable. He slowly got better as the game went on. But at that point, we're down big. The game was already a wrap. So, I think all eyes are going to be on Jackson. It's not a matter of what this team is going to do during the regular season. I think they're going to be a playoff team again. I think they can win the division again. Although the Browns did get better, you're going to have the Steelers, of course, with Big Ben coming back. You don't have to worry about the Bengals. I still think the Ravens will win the division, but it's about what can they do in the playoffs, because they're going to be expected to perform. And until I see it, I just don't. I'll be honest, I just don't fully trust Lamar Jackson in the playoffs as of now. Like, I need to see him get that monkey off his back. He needs to at least have that epic signature playoff win for me to be comfortable and confident saying, okay, he can lead this team all the way.
And that's what makes me real interesting about the Ravens, is because that he seemed like he was so unstoppable in the regular season. But we all know that regular season and postseason is two different styles. You just don't know what you're going to get out of a team when you go into the postseason. And unlikely to say, in my NFL picks, I did pick Tennessee over Baltimore just because Tennessee was riding that wave of going on the road, beating the New England Patriots, which was the Super Bowl champions at that time. They ended up beating the Super Bowl champions, and they went into a hostile environment in Baltimore and came out with a win. Not just a win, but kind of dominantly won the game until the Ravens tried to come back at the end. But that was one of my my sleeper pick. I think me and another person, one of my other colleagues for Spotlight Sports Talk, Key in the building, I think we both picked Tennessee just because of the running game of Derrick Henry. Now, hopefully the Ravens can get back on track, because Lamar Jackson needs to get a playoff win. If he want to take his career to the next level, he will have to have a winnable playoff game. And it's not just him that have to do everything, but the defense has to definitely upgrade as well. And I think getting Michael Brockers was definitely an interesting defensive lineman that y'all did get to help out with the pressure. I feel like y'all addressed a few things on both sides of the ball. But I'm looking forward to seeing the Ravens this year. Hopefully we can play them again, because I would like to come into Baltimore like I went to New York last year and my Raiders got spanked by the Jets. But that's another story for another time. Hopefully I can get to Baltimore and you have a Baltimore Ravens and Raiders game, hopefully when this whole virus thing is completely over.
Yeah, straight up, man. I wanted to get out to a game this season. I had actually some big plans for the summer, which is pretty discouraging. The fact that we got to just be put on pause. Like, I wanted to visit a couple of stadiums with baseball season coming up. I wanted to visit LA as well and stuff like that. So, yeah, we got to put all those plans on pause, man. But, yeah, like you said, the spotlight is going to be on Lamar Jackson. Can this guy go out and win a playoff game? That's what I'm most interested in seeing as well for this Ravens team this season. And I mean, it's going to be interesting in that division. Like I said, you're going to have the Steelers who nearly got into the playoffs with old Big Ben. Big Ben is most likely going to be ready to go. That defense was rocking towards the latter half of the season. So the Steelers can't be a team you can sleep on. And then, I mean, the Browns, like, they are so stacked offensively right now, bringing in Hooper, that you gotta give them at least somewhat of a chance. But then again, I don't trust Baker Mayfield, and that's another discussion for another day. But I mean, I think the division will be interesting, and I don't think it's going to be a foregone conclusion that the Ravens are going to win the division. So they're going to have the work cut out for them. But we'll see. We'll see what happens, man.
I don't know why it keeps freezing. I have no clue why my camera keeps freezing.
It's all good. I try to kill that dead air time.
No, it's all good. That's why I try to hurry up and get right back into it. But yeah, so hopefully the Raiders can see the Ravens again, and we could get back to doing your NFL picks. If y'all have not subscribed to Red Zone Rosano, please go subscribe to Red Zone Rosano. That's where he do all his NFL picks and all NFL news with Luca Rosano, and he has his page where he do all NBA content as well, which is Luca Rosano on YouTube. So please go subscribe to his channel. The guy is on the road to 11,000 subscribers, y'all. He's on the road to 11,000. His channel blew up so fast. It was just unprecedented. I'm like sitting here like, wow, look how Luca's channel just blew up. And what was it for you? Like, what was the niche that, since you made two separate channels, one for NFL and one for NBA, what made you decide to do that?
Yeah, well, I appreciate the kind words. I don't think I've blown up by any means. I mean, I still got a long way to go. But yeah, to answer your question, so before my channel name was called the Waterboro Report, and I try to do everything on that channel. So I was grinding every single day, bringing you NBA news, NFL news, soccer news, baseball news, even WWE. So I was literally spreading myself very, very, very thin. But doing so, I was just overworking myself. I was trying to do everything myself, and then I sat there realizing, and at the end of the day, I'm a one-man team. Like, this is very overwhelming. So doing some marketplace research and kind of studying some channels in the game right now that have done exceptionally well, I realized in order for you to develop an audience, I think the best way is to go niche. And that's what I was telling you in our off-air conversations every single time we talk. So my decision was to keep the NBA content on one channel, and then I changed my channel name from the Waterboro Report, which is my sports media company, to my personal name, because I just wanted more people to vibe with me as a sports personality. And in doing so, I specifically did Raptors content. And by doing Raptors content on my main channel, I started to see the numbers rise. I started to see more and more people invested in what I was going to talk about next, what I was going to post next. That's how you get the vibe and the buzz going. And then I just kept doing that. I kept doing live streams, which helped a lot. Obviously, the Raptors winning the championship helped a lot too. And then just carrying that into the off season, doing signing videos, doing what if videos, and now I'm doing stories that I'm looking at, like key moments in the past for the Raptors, doing more storytelling videos, and just really testing pieces of content with the Raptors that seem to do the best. I was doing game recaps too until the season's been put on pause, but I found that once you stick to a team that you're not only passionate about, but a team that you see every single day, that you can study closely and almost be a beat reporter for that team, I think more people will vibe with you and they will look at you as a legitimate source for covering that team. And then in essence, that will grow your audience because people want to hear your opinion when big stuff happens with that team. And then with the NFL channel that I recently made at the start of last NFL season, Red Zone Rosano, I still wanted to keep the NFL talk going because I am a big NFL fan as well. My two favorite sports are NBA and NFL. So I said, you know what? I want to keep it separate so I can develop a separate fan base and I can just talk NFL to people who just want to hear about NFL and not hear about the Raptors and stuff like that. So I made Red Zone Rosano specifically for NFL picks NFL content. And now, whenever I want to talk NFL, I obviously upload on that channel. Whenever I talk about NBA, which is still my main priority, I upload on my main channel. So yeah, it's just I think that's the way to be successful on YouTube. I've been in the game since 2017 and just doing a lot of different things. I think the more specific you are with your content, the more niche you are with your content. I mean, I think that's how you're going to ultimately get a lot of success. And we see the same content creators too, right? Like guys that Philly 500, Entertainer Talking Sports, Bad Dog. These guys all have their niche, and they've been able to grow to the numbers that they have today. You know, Bad Dog doing Lakers streams and blowing up his channel, Entertainer Talking Sports doing Giants content. So I think that's the key to success.
I absolutely agree there because once I started doing my Raiders videos again on this channel, it started to grow. It started to grow. Like I went from having what 2.2K, now I'm almost at 2,500
There you
just
go.
by
Yeah.
doing mock drafts and Raider stuff. I was really trying to think about should I keep the name Spotlight Sports Talk because I do talk Sixers as well because I don't want to make like another page just for Sixers content and then
Yeah.
I have all that and then I have to rebuild that channel because I'm like that's the only issue that I have back and forth. Like, do I really want to change it from being you have my name Darian Hopkins on this channel or keep it as Spotlight Sports Talk? So that's just kind of the underline that I'm having right now is like because I know the Raiders content is doing so well on
Yeah.
his channel. And my question is like, do you think I should change the name Spotlight Sports Talk to keep it as my name and talk Raiders and make another channel, or just keep everything on one channel, just Raiders and Sixers?
Yeah, it's definitely a tough decision to make. Even with myself, I was constantly going back and forth, and then you always realize, or you always ponder how your fans, your audience is going to receive it. I would say do maybe a post asking people what they think about what you just said, seeing what their reaction is to it. Because before I officially made my announcement, I talked to a lot of people who were solid supporters on my channel. But then at the end of the day, Darren, you got to do what's best for you. You got to do what's going to make you the most happy, and you got to do what's going to make most sense for you. So I mean, I would say still keep doing the Raiders content. If you see it's progressively getting a lot of viewership, a lot of ratings, and you're getting that die-hard Raiders fan base to your channel, I would say run with that. I would say do all Raiders content. If you want to change the name of your channel, that's totally up to you. But like I said, I think the more niche you can be, the better you will be long term. And I mean, I know you still want to talk about your Sixers as well, and that's a tough call to make because it was like with me, I really wanted to be niche, but I'm like, I really want to still talk about the NFL. So then I said, you know what? Whatever. I got the time. I'm gonna go hard with this. I'm gonna make a second channel as I did because I was very on the fence. I was having the same type of doubts you are. Like I spent so long building this up. Do I really want to start from scratch on another channel and build that up? But then I did the NFL channel just for picks, and then I hit 1K quickly. So you never know. The more specific you are, you don't know how far that can take you. So I would say, yeah, maybe make this channel that you're on now, Spotlight Sports Talk. Maybe you make it all Raiders news again. Gauge the audience before you fully make that decision. And then if you still want to keep the Sixer stuff, maybe you can make a secondary channel.
Okay, that's not no problem there. So, we are like 40 minutes in, and I know they're talking mad NBA stuff in the chat. So, shout out to everybody in the chat, like NYBs, Dante Gaines, Fierce Raider, Mr. Winters,
What's going on, guys?
Snake Sports Talk Show. Snake Sports Talk Show is a new person that's on YouTube. He's from Las Vegas. He covers the Las Vegas Knights. He's not a Raiders fan. He's not a Raiders fan, but he is a Chargers fan. But he does cover basketball, and he has a podcast as well. So he is new to the YouTube community. So shout out to Snake Sports Talk Show. Shout out to everybody that's actually in the chat. Iverson Vlogs. The question is, one of the questions he did ask me, did I watch the show on Netflix called All American? I am watching it at this moment. I am on season 2 of All American. Have you ever heard of that show, Luca? All American on Netflix?
No, I never heard of it, man. I'm not a huge Netflix guy, but
All America is a great football show that you'll probably be interested in. When I say I was up to like 8 o'clock this morning watching that show because it was so addicted and it was so
Hold on.
realistic
You
and it
stayed
was
up all
so
night watching that show?
yeah, it was so it felt like it was so close to home of how the show was. So with All America, it is based on a true story of this kid that lives in Crenshaw and he's growing up and Crips and Bloods, gangs, violence, all of that stuff that's going on. And he gets an opportunity to leave Crenshaw and go to Beverly Hills to play on a better have a better life and have a better football career to get more scholarships and stuff like that. All right, so let me get back. I don't know what's going on. So y'all can hear me. If y'all can't see me, y'all can hear me. What I'm gonna do is this. I'm just let me see if I can do this right
Just roll
quickly
with the
because
punches.
yeah, I'm just gonna roll with the punches and go like this for right now. So so with that being said, yeah. So it was a show where it was a lot of twists and turns in here. I'm not gonna get too much depth into it, but it was definitely trying to get one of those kids to become an All American in football. But that was all his life, and his father left him after 8 years ago and try to come back to his life. It's a lot going on in the show, but it's something that you would actually could do a review on. So I was kind of interested in doing a review on that. So definitely something that you could check out because it was on the CW. If y'all don't know if you heard of the CW cable channel, I don't know if y'all had that cable channel in Canada, but it's like a UPN, like it used to be UPN back in the day, but yeah, it's on that. It's on national television. I think season two. I'm on that now, but I do. I like the show. I think it really relates to what's going on in today's society.
Yeah, I might check it out then. If it is, if there, like, I'll only watch TV if there's like some relation to sports and stuff like that. So yeah, I'll check it out. Sounds interesting.
Okay, I had to make sure I moved my head so I wasn't freezing at
There
the
you go.
time.
There you are.
Yeah, right, right. So, if anybody in the chat have any questions for Luca Rosano, please let us know now. If not, you can always call us on Skype as well. I am going to put the number up there as well. So if you do want to call us on Skype and you have any questions for Mr. Luca Rosano, aka the Waterboy Report, I'm going to put that up there for you right there. So call it to the show 267-776-4735. And we're here with Luca Rosano of the Luca Rosano Show. I do listen to your Apple podcast. I didn't even notice that you had an Apple podcast until I looked at it and I looked at it, I was like things related to my actual podcast.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I'm like, the Luca Rosano show. I'm like, let me listen to because I see this notice that every time you do a video on YouTube, you put the audio part on Apple Podcasts. You ever thought about going to, Spotify as well?
Yeah, so I'm on Spotify actually. I just don't plug it as much. I didn't even realize or notice I had a Spotify until like a couple weeks ago. So all my stuff is being uploaded to Spotify, but like I said, I just don't plug it. But yeah, I'm on SoundCloud, Apple iTunes, Spotify, and those are the main ones, right? So yeah, and I basically do what you just said. I literally just I do the show video. I get people on that are in the NBA scene. I try to get like guys who actually cover the team. If they're busy, I might just grab like a fellow content creator and I'll do my show video and then I'll just rip the audio and just upload it on those streaming platforms. Because like a lot of people, you'll be surprised. Like a lot of people will just check out your pod if it's just audio, but there is still that I guess audience and fan base that want to see a video podcast. So I think if you could do both, I mean, it's the best of both worlds. Why spread yourself thin? Do
Right.
both. All it takes is like an extra 5 minutes. You just rip the audio, make some adjustments, and just upload it. So
Yeah, because that's what I do with mine. Because I am on Apple Podcasts, I am on Spotify, but I am on Anchor as well. But Anchor is really good because Anchor, if you upload on Anchor, it will blast off your podcasts onto Apple Podcasts and onto Spotify. So instead of doing it all at each one, Anchor would, like,
Yeah.
once you have your links, Anchor will, once you upload on Anchor and it's all good, then it will spread it out to Spotify and it will spread it out to Apple Podcasts. So Iris and Vlog said my favorite character on All American Spotlight is Olivia and Layla for some reason other than Spencer. Spencer is the top, is the favorite, is the main guy, but Olivia and Layla, they some beautiful women on there. So I can't agree with you. Iris and Vlogs, I definitely can't agree with you there. So for people that don't know you in the chat, the brand Luca Rosano. Let the people know because I see sponsors behind you, I see names behind you, I see jerseys and everything going on. So let the people know, like, the brand itself for Luca Rosano. Like, what actually do you do with that brand or your media company, the Waterboard Report?
I'm gonna clear the air about that, but hold it down for 2 minutes because I gotta just use the washroom. So I'll be right back.
Oh, that's fine. Take your time. Take your time.
I'll be right back.
And definitely take your time there. So we just gonna wait for him to come back. He said he will be back in a few. But if you do want to call up to the show, call up to the show. We have all the questions that we will have for Luca Rosano. He's in the building. Please subscribe to his channel. Please actually hit the like button. Follow him on Twitter at Luca Rosano as well. So he's definitely going to hold that question, and once he comes back, and then we're going to come from there. But how y'all doing in the chat, man? How are y'all doing in the chat? Let us know right now. Let us know, and let us, we'll have some fun. So we waiting for Luca to come back. We waiting for Luca to come back. So we is gonna do this. Have a special guest on. I am gonna have a special guest on Wednesday as well. So if y'all do have any questions for Luca, knowing that he's a Toronto Raptors fan, knowing that he's a Baltimore Ravens fan, and he's gonna tell us a little bit about his actual his branding as well. So if you do have questions, I do have a call-in number that if you do want to call in and ask him some questions, please let us know. And we just waiting for him to come back as we get back to it, man. Once we get back to it. Spotlight, my favorite character in All American is Coop. Coop is from Philadelphia, right? Coop is from Philadelphia. So waiting for him to get back in.
Sorry about that. Sorry about that. Nature calls. Yeah. So to answer your question, the reason why I decided to change my channel name from the Waterboard Report at the time to Luke Rosano is I want to be more known as a personality. So I wanted people to know me based on my name as being the basketball guy, as being the football guy, because then my football channel, of course, is Red Zone Rosano. Because right now I'm a one-person operation in terms of the content I put out on YouTube. But that being said, the Waterboard Report still exists, but it's my sports media company. So if you actually type in the waterboardreport.com online, I have a website right now where at the time when sports were running, I covered every Toronto FC game, every Raptors game, every Leafs game, every Jays game. So I was pretty much dominating the Toronto sports team in terms of content, and I had a team of writers write articles every day. And what I was trying to do with that is become one of the premier publications in the city of Toronto in terms of sports coverage. So the Waterboard Report is my media company on that front, but the Luca Rosano YouTube channel and the Luca Rosano show is just me as a personality. And the sponsors you see behind me are just pretty much companies that believe in my vision. They believe in me. They support me. And as I do my content, just like you see on TV, I plug them. I plug them as you would, as, WWE plugs its sponsors, or another late night show plugs its sponsors. So I just took that same approach where it's like, if I'm putting content online, online's the future. So why wouldn't advertisers want to, sponsor your show if you are online, if you are getting the traffic, if you are getting the eyeballs? Because that's how most people consume their content nowadays anyway, online versus TV. So, like I'm a sports personality first, but I consider myself an entrepreneur. I've always been business savvy from a young age. So I just took my passion for sports content creation and my instinct for business development, and I put it together. So that's pretty much where I'm at now. I want to grow my personality and be recognized by more people. And I'm also growing my brand as well.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. It's such an inspiration knowing that I am a small channel, and watching you grow and be the entrepreneur that I want to be. Being passionate for being passionate about, for what I do, upgrading and trying to find better ways to do things with sponsorships and stuff like that. So it's definitely inspiration as well. So we do have a few questions in the chat, which I'm gonna pop up on the screen. Dante Gaines says, "What do you feel about the Jazz now that Gobert and Mitchell possibly can't play anymore if the season comes back?"
That pretty much just shoots down any chance they had. I mean, especially if both those guys are unavailable. I mean, who do the Jazz have after him? Ingles? I don't know how far he can take you. I don't know how far Mike Conley can take you. I mean, if Mitchell and Gobert don't play, the Jazz virtually have no chance to even win a round, in my opinion. And what's going on, Dante Gaines? I see you a lot on my channel as well, man. And yeah, man, that's pretty much how I feel on that. I don't think the Jazz would be much of a threat by any means without those two guys, and I'm sure Darian can agree.
Yeah, I could agree 100%. I can agree because those two guys, they make the motor run for the Utah Jazz. They make that motor run. They make sure the offense is run through them. It is it's yeah, they won't be able to do nothing. I try to put something around it. It just wouldn't happen like that. We have a question from Mr. Winters. He says, Does Luca trust Lamar Jackson to take the Ravens all away?
You
That's
got to
what.
show me how to do that little pop up on the screen. That's actually really cool. How you get the questions up on there.
Yeah, it's actually through StreamYard. So when I go to the comments, I just hit the show button on the StreamYard comments, and it'll pop up on the bottom of your screen. Do you trust Lamar Jackson to take the Ravens all the way? That's the question from Mr. Winters.
Mr. Winters, thanks for the question. Like I said earlier in the show, I'm not sure if you were here. As of now, I'll be a realist. I don't. Until I see him actually go out, perform, get that signature playoff win that I was talking about with Darian. I mean, I wouldn't be comfortable or confident in a playoff game with Lamar Jackson, especially when you got to go up against Kansas City, especially if you got to go up against maybe the Indianapolis Colts with Phillip Rivers. So, I mean, until I see it, I'm just not going to have too much confidence in it. But I think every great competitor will do what they have to do to get that win. And Lamar Jackson's sole mission this season isn't going to be about setting more records, isn't going to be about winning MVP, isn't even probably going to be about racking up the wins because they were 14-2 for crying out loud. His sole mission is just going to be get that playoff win, shut up the haters. So, he's a competitor. He's proven people wrong in the past. And I think he'll get it done. But yeah, as of today, I don't think he could, but he can definitely change my mind based on how he plays this season and postseason.
And Hours of Vlogs had a question. He said, "Who would you guys rather have out there? How out of these three? Devin Booker, Jason Tatum, or Donovan Mitchell?" And he said he is a biased fan. He's going to pick Devin Booker.
I guess I'll start here. I'm going Jason Tatum, man. Jason Tatum, he gives me that Kobe vibe, man. At such a young age, the way he's able to move with the ball, get to the rim effortlessly. I love his jump shot when he's on. He's still super young. I think Jason Tatum is going to be that guy. When talking about the next 10 years of the NBA, I think we're going to consider Jason Tatum as a top 5 player in our league. No disrespect to Devin Booker or Donovan Mitchell. I'm very high on both of them. But if I had to choose one, it'd be Jason Tatum. And if it's not Tatum, I'd go Donovan Mitchell before I go Devin Booker.
Yeah, I'll have to agree. I just think Devin Booker right now, he's in a city where it's not a lot of notoriety in Phoenix. And knowing that the team was like, they were playing better this year. Phoenix was playing better this year. They wasn't playing at their top tier level because they're so young, but Devin Booker is still doing everything on his own in Phoenix. And I think, for me personally, Iverson Vlogs might not like this, but I think Devin Booker needs to get out of Phoenix. Because even if, just in case if Damian Lillard didn't go down, but Devin Booker wouldn't be an all-star. And the reason why he's not wouldn't be an all-star because of the small market of the Phoenix Suns. It's just a small market that doesn't get a lot of notoriety. Now
Yeah,
with Donovan Mitchell's in a small market as well. But Donovan Mitchell built around him to get to the playoffs every single year while they was there.
yeah.
So I will go with Jason Tatum here because Jason Tatum has the most complete team out of these two, out of Donovan Mitchell and Devin Booker. Dante Gaines asked another question. Um, I think this is going to be for both of us. He said, "How long you think Brett Brown has left spotlight? He has it to the end of this year. Whenever we start the NBA season up." Reason why I say that because I don't like Brett Brown. I can't stand Brett Brown. He thinks he's the Sixers version of a Greg Popovich. That's just not going to work. Brett Brown, it just didn't work out. He's like he makes Al Horford look so uncomfortable on the court. It makes him look so uncomfortable. If you ever look at a Sixers game with Al Horford on the court, he doesn't look comfortable in the system. He just doesn't. It just don't make any sense. But how do you feel about it? Do you think Brett Brown's going to be gone at the end of this year?
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. I think if the Sixers don't at least make it to an NBA Finals, I think Brent Brown's the first guy to get the axe. I think they're definitely going to part ways with him. I thought it was actually going to be last season, but I think they decided to give him one more year. Since Kawhi moved out west and there's no clear cut favorite in the East. I think they thought, let's give this guy another try. Let's see what he can do with the Sixers. But the fact that the Sixers have been struggling to date, if they don't make a final in a year that was pretty much designed for them to at least get to a conference finals, I think he's going to be gone.
Interesting. Interesting to say. So, what can I say? The next question. Mr. Winter says Tatum over Luca and Zion.
Ooh, that's a good one. Tatum over Luca and Zion. No, I think Zion's going to be really, really good. I think a lot of people forgot about him and they kind of downplayed him after suffering that injury. He's 19 years old. He's already shown us what he can do. He's only going to get better. He needs to get his weight in check. That's the number one priority for him. If he does, I think he's going to be as good as advertised. So definitely no over Zion. Over Luka's interesting. I'm a huge Luka Doncic fan, but I just want to see more from him over the next couple of seasons, particularly in the playoffs. Because the thing that entices me about Tatum is, if you remember, we saw him perform at a high level during that playoff run when the Celtics almost made it to the finals, when they brought LeBron and that cast team to 6 games, and they actually took the first 2 games of that Eastern Conference Finals. And if you remember, Darian, him and Jaylen Brown really put the Celtics on their back without Kyrie Irving. So that to me shows what he can do, and that separates the boys from the men. The fact that Tatum really looked comfortable in that situation makes me think that right now I would have to give the edge to Tatum over Luka, but we got to see what Luka does in the playoffs. If Luka can consistently perform at a high level in the playoffs, I definitely go with Luka.
Luka? Luka, well, how can I put it? Right now, Luka's still young. He's in his second year. Zion's in his first year. He has a lot to develop. Right now, I'm going with Jason Tatum over both of them just because they both the complete basketball players. Luka, he has a chance to get to the playoffs, and so does Jason Tatum. Zion, he's from the outside looking in, and I really like Jason Tatum's game. He don't talk much, but he performs. And I think Luka and Zion perform too. Yes, they are highlight reels. They're going to be on ESPN. But when it comes down to the grit and playoff experience, I'm taking Jason Tatum over both of them just because of the experience alone. I feel like Zion and Luka is the future of this league, like Carmelo and LeBron was, or what Dwayne Wade at the time. So Jason Tatum, Luka, Zion, those 3 guys, and some other young players like a RJ Barrett, they're going to be the actual face of the franchise once LeBron decides whenever he retires, probably like the age of 70 when he retires. Because the guy like he's not slowing down at all for some reason. I don't know how he's doing it. But he would like 17th season. I just don't know how he's doing it.
Yeah, he's killing it right now. He's still going strong.
Okay, so Iverson Vlog says, I know it's really unlikely, but what if we see the return of KD when the NBA comes back and the same KD and Kyrie back in Brooklyn to the finals versus the Lakers.
Well, it's interesting because I actually had this question on my show, the Luca Rosano show, this past Friday. Because if the playoffs started today, the Raptors would play the Nets, and everybody was asking me, Luca, what do you think about if the Nets have Kyrie and KD ready to go for that series if it's played in July or even August? I think it changes everything, and that's very, very interesting to speculate. Because how can you discredit and count out a Nets team without a top three player when healthy in Kevin Durant and a top 10 player in Kyrie Irving when healthy? I think that would give the Brooklyn Nets a very, very good chance to make a run. And yeah, you could talk about the 7th seed Brooklyn Nets making an improbable run and playing the Lakers or the Clippers in the finals. But that being said, would the Nets really want to rush back KD and Kyrie just for that, especially now with this whole NBA hangover, with guys not going to be in sync and Russ going to be playing an issue and all that sort of stuff? So I just think even if they are ready, I think the Nets are not going to force them back in that spot. I mean, KD, they said best case scenario, he'll be ready at the 9 to 12 month mark. The 12-month mark from when he suffered that injury would be in June. So let's just say the NBA playoffs roll around in August. KD is only going to be 2 months removed from his 12-month timetable. Is that a sufficient amount of time? I think they would rather just say, take the rest of the summer off. We'll bring you back for 2021.
I'll have to agree there. I'll have to agree there just because of you know the Brooklyn Nets are still, even though they're the 7th seed, but Dinwiddie and Levert, those two guys are very underrated in this league. And what's going on, Jesus? What's going on, Jesus? He says, when's the NBA coming back? We don't know when the NBA is coming back. I can't wait for the NBA to come back because I miss doing my live play-by-play and reactions. I feel like I get so intense with my live, especially when I do Sixers. When I do Sixers live play-by-play reactions, it gets very intense for me. Mr. Winter says, if Brett Brown lets go chances, he goes to the Nets with KD and Kyrie. No. No. I think Brett Brown, after what the Sixers, what he did with them, I think he'll go back to being an assistant coach. I can't see Brett Brown being another head coach in this league trying to take a team to the finals or to the playoffs. I just don't see it happening. I don't know if our Sixers is the personnel is the reason why it's not working with us, but I just can't see Brett Brown being another head coach after being with the 76ers.
That's an interesting question. I mean, I don't think he would go to the Brooklyn Nets per se, but I think Brett Brown would get an opportunity somewhere. Now, where that would be remains to be seen, obviously, but yeah, that would be interesting if he kind of goes to the other team in the division and joins forces with KD and Kyrie, because both those guys are going to pretty much handpick their coach. That's the reason why their head coach got fired, because apparently KD and Kyrie didn't want to play for him. So the next coach coming in is literally going to be handpicked by those two guys.
Dante Gaines said, if Kitty asks who. That's funny. He said work didn't work for them. How there's no way in hell that Brett Brown would.
If Kenny Atkinson, yeah, like that was a head scratcher though. He's actually a good coach. Like that's wild, and they didn't want to play for him. Why? Because he's too strict. I don't get it.
I don't know why they did it mid-season too. I thought they was gonna do that with Brett Brown, but Shake Milton ended up playing better, knowing they put him in the starting lineup. So Brett Brown, you're doing something right, but I still think you ain't gonna be the Sixers coach next year. Iverson Vlog said, in my opinion, spotlight, I think the Sixers should take a look at Kenny Atkinson as the coach for the 76ers, but I recommend Mark Jackson. How do you feel about that? Because I'm going to answer that last. Do you think the Sixers should go after Kenny Atkinson or Mark Jackson if they do decide to, fire Brett Brown?
I'd probably say Kenny Atkinson just because he's been around the game most recently. That being said, I know Mark Jackson, he's obviously got tremendous basketball IQ. He can be well suited for a future coach position in our league, but he's been away from the game, from the sideline for a while. So I think bringing him into that situation and asking him to bring a team to an NBA Finals, even win the whole thing, would be a tall task. So I would rather go with Atkinson if I were the Philadelphia 76ers. But then again, Mark Jackson is a hard-nosed guy. Like, he don't take any shit. So maybe that's the type of personality that would work well with a guy like Joel Embiid and even Ben Simmons, and just get that team, all on the same page. Who would you rather have? I'm actually curious now.
I like Kenny Atkinson. I just don't know too much about him. I think he's a good coach. I only know a little bit about him, but just the the rap sheet for Mark Jackson and how he built that Golden State Warriors team, and then end up handing it off to Steve Kerr, like Steve Kerr built the team. I just felt like he knows how to work with personnel. I don't know what the personnel is for Kenny Atkinson. I just saw what I see from the rap sheet from Mark Jackson. But if they're both better than Brett Brown, I would take either. It doesn't really matter to me. I don't think Mark Jackson is going to come get away from commentary again, knowing that he lost his job with the Golden State Warriors. I think he wants to stay where he at, being commentary for ESPN and NBA on ESPN. So I will go with Kenny Atkinson a little bit more than Mark Jackson. Mr. Winter says, "How about if Washington let go of Scott Brooks, and how about a KD reunion?"
I mean, that'd be crazy, but I don't think that'll happen.
Now, I don't think it would happen either. I definitely disagree with this here. Letting Scott Brooks go and let go of Scott Brooks and have a KD reunion. I understand that Kevin Durant is from Washington, D.C., that's his hometown. But at the same time, he made a commitment to Brooklyn. And once he gets 100% healthy, yes, he will actually do well, knowing that Kyrie Irving, and just I think the Brooklyn Nets are one piece away. They're one piece away. We already know they got Levert and Dinwiddie, but I feel like they're missing like a dominant big man, in my personal opinion. Like somebody that, I mean, Allen is down there with the afro and all, but I just feel like it's just a presence that's missing with the Brooklyn Nets, in my opinion.
Yeah, they got the pieces. I mean, they're going to be very, very interesting next season when Kyrie and KD are back in the fold. I really like Jared Allen. I do like him. I like Harris. They do have pieces, but it's about like who's going to be that guy to come in and really get them together and get them to play on the same page. DeAndre Jordan, I know he's obviously older now, but he can still be that good veteran leadership, that presence in the playoffs. The Nets definitely have enough talent to win it all, but again, it's going to be about who they bring in to get the guys on the same page.
So we're going to shift a little bit off from basketball. Dante Gaines says, "I'm tired of hearing Mark Jackson commentate. Please give him a job." And then Mr. Winter says, "Sorry, sadly, Mark Jackson pissed off the wrong people. He will not get another head coaching job, and that sucks." Everybody's entitled to their opinion. I think he could get another coaching job. I just don't know when. I just don't know where. So you just never know. I mean, people thought Jason Kidd was not going to get another coaching job, but he ended up getting one. So that's another story for another time.
Yeah,
but
very true.
I do want to shift to a little bit of football again, which is the XFL. I don't know how much you followed the XFL. I followed it a lot once it started after the Super Bowl, and I was pretty impressed the way the XFL was ran this year before it ended up being canceled, due to the coronavirus. How did you feel about the XFL overall, before it got canceled?
Yeah, so I'll be honest too. I didn't really follow it a whole ton. Obviously bought into the hype when the opening week was announced and we saw those first couple of matchups. But just based on what I saw from social media and just like some of the things that they did that's different from the NFL, I think the XFL did a great job. They were doing a great job, and they would have been on par to having a successful first season. I mean, just the little things that they did well. I mean, I think what was a hit was the whole like kickoff thing being different, it being safer for the players. So their social media antics were a lot better in terms of like using memes and stuff like that to relate to fans. They did a really good job of capturing their voice with their online presence, I think. And then just like the small other things that separated them, like their in-game interviews. The quarterback just threw a pick and then he's getting interviewed, or like interviews in the locker room at halftime, or interviewing a player or kicker after a missed kick. I think that's the stuff that made it different in a good way because it separated them from the NFL in that sense. In terms of the actual play on the field, I mean, it is watered down. Don't get me wrong; it didn't compare to the NFL level of play on the field by any means, but it wasn't terrible. I think it would have been. I was expecting it to be a lot worse than it actually was. So it was definitely doable football, considering that they were pretty much playing games during a time where there's no NFL, no other football going on. So I think it did fairly well from that standpoint. And like, was it better than AAF? 100%. And like I said, if it continued and we didn't have this whole virus sweep sports, I think the XFL would have went on to have a very successful first season, and the fan bases were starting to ride with their team because I think just in general, America loves football, and they wanted to see it succeed, so they were fully invested in it.
And I have to agree. I have to agree. And what made it so interesting about the XFL was some of the rules that they had. I don't know if you noticed like the special team rules that they had for kickoff. Now, kickoff was is that you have your front line and then you have your receiving front line where nobody can move after they kick the ball. Nobody can move. I mean, nobody on the field can move until the receiver actually catch the football off the kickoff. I think it's the most safest way to do a kickoff in football because you only let the kicker kick it, and once the guy receives the ball, that's when everybody can move and start blocking. I think
Yeah,
it's smart
yeah.
on the XFL to have that idea. Now, the idea of having a 1.2.3 point conversion pretty interesting in the red after you score a touchdown. So after you score a touchdown, it's not really an automatic field goal. You have to go for a 1 point conversion, a 2 point conversion, or a 3 point conversion, and it's on different parts of the yard line. So that was pretty different as well for the XFL. But I think Vince McMahon did it right this time. Instead of being entertainment that he did it the first time, he actually went out and did football players. He actually had ESPN and FS1 actually being a part of something different. And I
Yeah,
thought,
yeah, that was big too. It felt
yeah,
like an actual broadcast, right? Like
yeah,
it had a
and
legitimacy to it.
in AAF was so much different. Like AAF, we didn't know half of the players in AAF, but we knew most of the players in the XFL. And proud to say that former Temple Wild quarterback PJ Walker has been signed to a NFL team just because of his production of what he did in the XFL. And then the Kansas City Chiefs picked up a quarterback from the XFL as well. So the NFL is actually watching it. They're actually watching it. So yeah, I really did like the XFL. I did like the XFL. But my next question is, we're going to shift from Netgear. How do you feel about this? Because I think I can't stand this right now with the WWE. Something just pisses me off with the WWE sometimes. How do you feel about the WWE WrestleMania being in the WWE Performance Center with no crowd and it's a 2-day event? How do you feel about that?
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that right now, Darren, because I'm actually watching Raw right now, and they're showing an old match from the Royal Rumble a couple years ago when it was that epic triple threat between Cena, Lesnar, and Rollins. Like that's what they're showing right now on Monday Night Raw. Um, to answer your question, I'm a little bit indecisive. I'm on the fence because I can look at it two ways. Part of me saying you have all these great matches, and it's going to be a shame that these matches aren't going to be taking place in the WrestleMania crowd, in front of the WrestleMania crowd, in the signature WrestleMania moments that we have come to love as fans. So we're going to be stripped of that feeling as fans when seeing Roman Reigns against Goldberg with no fans, when seeing McIntyre most likely going to be Lesnar for the title without fans, from seeing the Fiend against Cena with no fans. So that's what sucks about it, I think, the most. The fact that we're going to see some really good matches on paper happen in front of no fans. And wrestling is that business where they are literally built on fan reactions. And without fan reactions, it does feel very, very different. So would I have liked for the WWE to take a pause, just like every other sport? I mean, they consider themselves a sport. Yes. I mean, for the first time ever, I don't think it would have hurt Mr. McMahon to give his superstars a legitimate offseason and say, okay, guys, we'll get right back in the wrestling calendar. We'll get right back with their storylines once this whole thing is over. But at the same time, WWE is not only considered a sport, but it's entertainment. And as they say, the show must go on. So it would be weird if you would put these storylines on pause and then you pick up these WrestleMania matches in like August. Let's call it what it is. It just wouldn't work. So I can give WWE kudos and I can give them a ton of respect for trying to make this work, which they have been so far, running these shows still, Raw, SmackDown without a crowd. And they're actually going to be doing WrestleMania without a crowd. And now I don't know if you heard this, the latest, WrestleMania is actually going to be taped. They're actually, I think, taping WrestleMania starting this week. So it's very, very different, uncharted territory from for the WWE. So while many fans can look at it and say, just cancel this, put it on pause, I can respect WWE's decision to continue to let the show go on because at the end of the day, it is entertainment, just like your favorite movie, just like your favorite show. It still has to happen.
I agree and then I disagree. I feel like they needed to cancel WrestleMania because you're making it a 2-day event on the WWE network. So now you have all these matches going down in a 2-day. I think people's going to be worn out that WrestleMania is a 2-day event. Knowing that how WrestleMania is going to be in a performance center where they have the big stages, they have the big sign WrestleMania. How that's going to work in a performance center is not going to work. The setup is not going to be the same. And I felt as though like if you're going to have WrestleMania, at least have it in an empty arena so you can have your stage and have a little bit of power to make it a little bit more interesting for people to watch. There's been rumors saying that the Performance Center has been shut down. That's according to JD from NY. He's a definitely wrestling podcaster that I follow on YouTube. And I just don't know. I just feel like with wrestling now, with the WWE, you're showing old matches on Monday Night Raw. Why you just can't have that. I don't get that part. And just make you have a storyline. You have a show for 3 hours. 3 hours, bro. And you showing old wrestling matches where you could go on the WWE network and watch it.
Yeah.
So it doesn't make any sense to me. Yeah, it doesn't make any sense for me either. And WrestleMania should be postponed to like September or something. Once we find out what's going on with this coronavirus, it should have just been canceled because, mind you, these wrestlers fight almost 200 of the 365 days a year, and they travel from coast to coast, going state to state, city to city, country to country. And I don't know if they're doing that now, but these guys need a break. You have WWE Monday Night Raw Monday. You have WWE NXT on Wednesday, and you have Friday Night SmackDown on Friday, and then on WWE Network you have 205 Live. So that's a lot of wrestling that's going on, and I feel like they should have gave those wrestlers a break.
Yeah, and I think it opens up a can of worms because I always thought, looking at the wrestling calendar, at the end of the day, WWE considers themselves entertainment, but like every great show and movie, they have a pause, right? Like if a movie happened, the sequel comes out a couple months later, like a TV show. They'll air their how many episodes, and then they'll wait a couple months until the next season starts. So I think this should open up WWE's playbook and saying to themselves, hey, if this does happen, this virus down the road again, how can we prevent our wrestlers having to continue to put on shows with no fans, making it not great content? I think you seriously got to consider maybe putting a pause to the wrestling calendar after WrestleMania. I mean, I don't think that'd be too bad if, like, let's just say you have the conclusion of WrestleMania, your storylines are pretty much all settled, and then you have wrestling programming resumed in a couple months. You know what I mean? Like WrestleMania can kind of be like the Super Bowl where you have your conclusion, you have your champions, and then you just pick things up a couple months later. I don't think it would necessarily hurt the product because, yeah, to your point, these guys are overworking themselves. I don't know how to date and it's still going on where wrestlers have not had any time off. And here's my whole thing too. WrestleMania is going to go on, okay, cool, in the Performance Center. It's not going to feel like WrestleMania. We're not going to get the crazy fan reactions. We're going to be stripped away from that as fans, witnessing some of these good matches, like I said, on paper. But then, like, how much longer is WWE expected to do this? Like, the night after WrestleMania on Monday Night Raw, arguably one of the best shows of the year, that's going to be with no fans? Like, are you kidding me? Like, how much longer can you do this? How much longer can you show old matches? Like, what are they going to show on the Raw after WrestleMania? The matches that just happened on WrestleMania weekend? Like, I don't know how they're going to continue to do this. And I will say this, though. You watched, I think, AEW. I watched AEW. AEW did a good job, a much better job than WWE in terms of rolling out a show with no fans because, A, they actually had some people in the audience having fun with it. You had some wrestlers gambling on it, heckling the other wrestlers. So it created more of a vibe to it. And B, the way they set up the ring, you didn't show the empty crowd, the empty seats on the sides. It just focused on the front entrance. So optically, it looked much better. It felt much better. And it was 2 hours of actual wrestling and promos being given. They didn't show any old match or any rerun of a match that happened a couple of months ago. So AEW, I think, did a really good job given the circumstances of no fans in the stands.
Honestly, I really prefer AEW over WWE at this moment. Understanding that people say, "Oh, former WWE wrestlers are going over to AEW," but I think right now AEW is the better product. That's just my personal opinion when it comes to this actual crisis of coronavirus and how they're handling it. So Snake Sports Talk Show says, "Do you think WrestleMania wanted to compete with UFC?"
Yeah,
That's
because
that's an interesting question.
Dana White has come out and said that that huge fight coming up with Khabib and I forgot the other guy's name. That's still happening.
I don't know if this still happened. I really don't follow UFC as much as a lot of people that's on my team that does. But WrestleMania, I think WrestleMania one. If you're going to compete with UFC, you got to do it big for WrestleMania. You think WrestleMania being a 2-day event and being the Performance Center is really going to compete with UFC? Knowing what UFC has been getting better ratings and better ratings? Absolutely not. I don't think WrestleMania wouldn't be able to compete. But if it was on the regular schedule, if it was in Tampa Bay at that stadium, the way everything would have been set up, the entrances and the crowd was there, I think they would have some competition with UFC. But as of right now,
Oh yeah.
I definitely don't see it. I can't see that happening.
Well, at least UFC, I think, to my knowledge, they're still going to be doing the fights. Dana White has come out. He said, even if we got to do it outside of the damn country, these fights will still happen with no crowd. So you got to give credit again to UFC. They're not backing down from their shows. They're still going to run their regular programming. But, I mean, UFC, WWE, sports in general, I think the biggest takeaway from all of this is without fans, all these entities are nothing. It is so crazy to see how much the fans actually make the game, whether it's a basketball game, hockey game, big fight, theatrical performance with WWE. I mean, it just doesn't feel the same without the fans, man. And I think that's been the biggest takeaway. Like these Raw and SmackDown, yeah, I give them credit for running them. I give them credit for still giving us something to look forward to during this time of despair. But at the same time, man, you can't. It doesn't feel the same, right? Like it just, it doesn't. And again, going back to WrestleMania, you got these good matches. Like the card looks pretty good, and it's a shame because the card looks good. Some of these matches have potential to be very, very good, but because there's going to be no fan reaction and it's going to be an empty arena, it's going to take away from it. And I mean, maybe they can do some cool effects because they're pre-taping it. Maybe they can make it look cool or different in some type of way and make it look like a WrestleMania. I mean, you can get creative just like how we get creative. But at the end of the day, yeah, I just don't know how they're going to do it. I'm actually excited to see how it's going to look come WrestleMania weekend, considering it's going to be pre-taped. Like, what are we going to expect? What type of spectacle are we going to expect? And, yeah, like I'll be watching just because there's nothing else going on. But yeah, it's just a shame. It's going to take away from some of these good matches, like even Undertaker versus Styles without a crowd. Like,
Yeah,
Yeah,
because if you look at that AJ Styles versus Undertaker, it reminds you of Shawn Michaels versus Undertaker, just the style of wrestling that AJ Styles does. So
yeah.
kind of high flying, a little bit smaller than Taker. So it gives you that feel. But that is it for tonight, guys. So this has been a very, very awesome show. I do want to thank Luca Rosano for being on the show, but we do have other questions as well. Um, Dante said, any thoughts on the Olympics not canceling their stuff? We did get notifications that
Yeah, they did.
they did end up doing it. So thank you, Dante, and thank you everybody for your questions. Um, Thank you, Luca, for being on the show. Thank you for coming on the Spotlight Sports Talk. It's been so long since you've been on my channel. I always called into your channel. I used to do your call-in shows, talk my smack about the Sixers and everything. But if y'all have not gone and subscribed to Luca Rosano, please go subscribe to him on YouTube and follow him on Twitter at Luca Rosano. And if you do like his NFL content as well, please follow him on Red Zone Rosano on YouTube. Thank you, my brother. I really do appreciate it, man.
Yeah, I appreciate it, man. This was a ton of fun, and I will be going live on my channel tomorrow. So yeah, if you're free, man, definitely call in. I'd love to have you on there. And that's it, man. Stay safe, man. God bless, and we'll definitely do this again. And yeah, man, continue making that dope content. I'm looking forward to all your Raiders content and Sixers content moving forward.
Awesome, man. Awesome, man. Thank y'all for tuning in. It's the Spotlight Sports Talk, y'all. I am Darian of the Spotlight Sports Talk. That's Luca Rosano of the Waterboard Report. And we'll see y'all in the next live stream, which will be Wednesday. I will have Ravens. Speaking of the Baltimore Ravens podcast on here, which is called Birdland BS. I'll
Oh,
have
those guys are
Fred.
great. Yeah, those
I
guys are
have
great.
Fred from Birdland BS. They will be on here but after their podcast is done. So it's going to be a later podcast. I'm trying to see if I can get them during the day, but if not, it might be later. So I'll definitely see y'all Wednesday with a live stream. Thank y'all for tuning in, and I will see y'all in the next stream, y'all.